Welcome back to Fantastic People. I'm Christian.
And I'm Regan. And here with us today is a very special guest, all the way from Callahan, Florida. He is a business systems analyst for Crowley Maritime. Also officiates high school and college football. Speaking of, he was recently selected to officiate, was selected to officiate a 2020 Florida High School State Championship game.
Wow.
Which is a pretty big deal.
Mm-hmm.
So here with us today is Clayton Tinkle. Clayton, how you doing?
Good, man. How are you? Thanks for having me.
We're good, man.
Yeah, doing well.
So glad you're here.
Yeah.
We appreciate you stepping up. We had a last minute opening and you were able to fill the void, and we appreciate it.
Yeah. Coming in clutch.
Sure.
That's a sports term, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say so.
It is now.
Yeah, for sure. We coined it now. Clutch. That's a sports term. Clayton, tell us a bit about yourself. Where you from? What you do? How'd you get into officiating?
So from Jacksonville, Florida originally. As Reagan said, live in Callahan now, just north of Jacksonville. Same difference really. Got into officiating when I was 13. My dad was trying to find a first job for me, and the grocery stores and none of that stuff looked fun. So decided to join him in officiating, and here we are. Almost 20 years later, it feels like.
That's cool.
Well, I did not know that.
You should know.
I'm a terrible family member.
Yeah. It's something that's always like interests me. I tried to push my brother to do it because I thought he would do really, really well at it. But I'm also lazy and, never actually took the time to get, I guess, qualified or learned enough about officiating anything to do it. So,
man,
respect. It looks like a lot of fun.
It's a ton of fun. It's really not that hard. It's all what you make it. Kind of everything else, The more effort you put towards it, the more proficient you become in it, and the easier it comes, of course. So,
how does it feel to be the most hated person on the field?
It's kind of cool, actually. You kind of revel in it from time to time, because we officials in general, we don't care who wins. We don't care what happens. We're there for a good time, a good game. So when you've got parents and coaches just being belligerent at you for something that you intentionally did not do, it's interesting for sure. It builds thick skin.
Yeah. It's entertainment by itself, I'm sure.
Builds a lot of thick skin, a lot of character.
I'm sure.
Have you ever been approached with a bribe from a parent?
I don't know that he can answer that.
I don't think, not legitimately. A bunch of coaches and parents will joke around and say, "Oh, right. I'll throw a 20," that kind of thing. But nothing legitimate.
Yeah, that's funny.
I know you officiate football. Do you officiate any other sports?
No, which is kind of weird because I'm honestly probably more into basketball, at least at this age in my life, than I am football. And I just haven't gotten into basketball officiating yet. I don't know why. I tried baseball once. Not fun. Don't recommend.
Yeah, I would think it would be super hot. Anytime I see an umpire, I'm like, you guys have got to be burning up. It's 100 degrees out here, and you're in like all black. And if you're behind home plate, covered in pads, doesn't seem enjoyable.
No.
All I know is about basketball officiating is in the NBA, you don't ever have to call travel because all those guys travel all the time.
Just let it go.
Yeah.
So business systems analyst by day and officiating by weekend, I guess, and night. I am curious. Do those correlate? Do you use a lot of the same skills? Is that what makes it one fun? Are they both fun to you? One's work?
So yeah, both fun. I will say, I think they do correlate a little bit. A lot of technical understanding in both. Like, not a lot of high level stuff. A lot of like bottom of the iceberg stuff you have to know that's more important. So yeah, I'd say that correlates for sure, especially on the data side of things for actual work.
Cool.
Yeah, that's a good question.
I try. I try to offer one good question an episode.
Yeah, sometimes you don't even meet that goal. But
no, sometimes I'm not very active at all.
Oh. Well, and on that note, we will move to the meat and potatoes of this podcast. Clayton, what are you a fan of? What are we here to discuss today?
Football in general. So, I mean, we could talk about officiating for hours, of course, but that would get really, really, really boring. But yeah, just football, the game, everything around it.
I'm super excited for this episode. I'm a huge football fan.
Yeah.
I wore my Atlanta Falcons jersey.
You did.
They're terrible, but I've been a diehard fan for a very long time. Are you a college football or pro guy?
So both. Yeah, kind of all of it. If I had a choice of something to go to, definitely college. Just more fun. I don't know how else to put it.
Before we really get into like the technicals of why, I gotta ask, follow up to that. Do you have teams? And what are they if you do?
Yeah, I do. I might get in trouble for saying this, but who cares? I'm a Michigan fan. I'm a college football.
Don't worry. Like five people are going to listen to this.
Michigan.
That's fine.
Yeah, that's a long story. It's actually kind of niche. We can tell it later. We can tell it now. It's up to you.
I say go
Let's
for
hear
it.
it. Yeah.
I only just have to ask. I can't. Are you pro Harbaugh getting re-signed? I mean, he's not done anything.
Yeah, bring Harbaugh back. Who are you going to get that's better?
Fair enough. So let's hear this Michigan story. How did you start following?
So yeah, very specific. I remember it like it was yesterday. Honestly, it's like I'm 6 years old. I'm sitting in the living room with my dad, and there's an Iowa and a Michigan game on, back in the '90s, of course. And I look over to him. I'm 6. I don't really like football, you know. Who does at 6? I'm like, Dad, I really like those helmets. Who is that? Because the Michigan helmets are, bright yellow and all wavy and cool to a kid, So he tells me the story about Michigan, and at the time they're like the elite of the elite. He's like, they're a good team. If you want to pull for them, just pull for them. And that's where it started. And then as I got older and older, I realized it was a really good institution academically. So my goal in life is to get into school there. So it's kind of turned into, I wouldn't call it an obsession, like a milestone, like a life milestone, that we're trying to accomplish. So
yeah, that's dope, man. Was this pre or post Tom Brady being at Michigan?
1999, so it was his last year at Michigan.
Last year, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. Regan, did you know that Tom Brady went to Michigan?
Nope.
Did you know? Well, obviously, you didn't realize that 99 was his last year at Michigan.
Nope. It's a great little factoid, and I can use that in trivia now.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
Write that down. Well, that's dope, man. What about at the professional level, at the NFL?
Sure. So a little correlation there. Because I was a Michigan fan growing up, I kind of adopted the Lions, like de facto.
Okay.
So still a really big Lions fan, even though they're always terrible.
So you know about heartbreak like I do.
Exactly right. Yeah. Except for we don't really get that far. We just suck the whole time. So.
That's true. That's true. The Lions have never even been to the Super Bowl, correct?
Correct. One of 4 teams, I believe. One of 3 now, I think. But I also we're really involved in our city, so of course have become a huge Jacksonville Jaguar fan, just kind of by default also. So yeah, 2 teams.
I mean, there's got to be some rivalry there because as a Michigan fan, Urban Meyer, former Ohio State head coach, now at the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
So top 5 college football coach of all time. I'm super stoked he's here. You can't get mad when you can't beat the greats.
That's true.
Speaking of, you I don't know if you want to share this or not. He'll never hear it. You kind of had an almost encounter, right? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, almost had an encounter. What's today? The 22nd. So 2 weeks ago, my wife and I.
A week ago. And date.
Yeah. My wife and I went out for our anniversary dinner.
Congratulations.
And nice steakhouse downtown Jacksonville. Thank you. And we're sitting there, and about halfway through our meal, one of the servers walks by, and like we're friends with him for context, and he gives me a nudge and he points to a corner table. I'm like, what are you talking about, man? I'm trying to eat dinner. So I put my steak knife down and I look up, and Urban Meyer is sitting 2 tables away from us. So
That's dope,
I
man.
I get Haley to agree to allow me to take a picture of her when I was actually just, snapping a picture of Herbs in the corner. So
Taking a picture
we
of
had
Urban
dinner
Meyer.
with Urban Meyer for our anniversary. It was a great time.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
that's great.
I've done something similar. This is way nerdier though. I was at the Fish House here in Pensacola. Shout out
Was
to
it
the Fish House.
PensCon week?
It was PensCon
Okay.
week. I always go PensCon week, and I always sit at the same table in the same room, which is also the same room they put all the celebrities in. I will wait for the
Dude,
table.
I got to go this time.
Okay.
We gotta do
Yeah, last time it's always like Kate and Joseph's birthday dinner since their birthdays are so
that's
close.
right. It's always around the same. Well, not this year though.
Yeah, it didn't happen this year, so we can do it this year. But
Cool.
Val got food poisoning last time, so I don't even know if we'll ever go back. But
yeah,
Jonathan Frakes, who famously played Commander Riker on Star Trek: The Next Generation. I'm a big Star Trek guy. I did the same thing. My wife was sitting across from me, and Jonathan Frakes was like right here, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna take your picture." That's Jonathan Frakes. I'm having dinner with Jonathan Frakes.
Yeah, that's great.
That's cool, man. That is really cool. I am mad respect about being pretty positive about Urban Meyer. I understand the mindset, though I don't know that I would be as willing. Like if, for example, Sean Payton were to come to the Falcons, it would be heartbreak for me because I hate the Saints. But well, that's cool.
Hey, if he brings wins, bring it on.
That's true. That's something we have not had the last few years. So you talk about just like general love at the game. Like, where did that appreciation come from? What are maybe some of the attributes that really made you kind of fall in love with football?
So I think it's super intricate, and people don't really think about that too much.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned in the pre-show questionnaire that I was never big enough or strong enough to play football on a competitive level too much, but I still understand the game, the X's and O's. I try to play, but I think there's more to it than a lot of people give credit for. There's 11 guys on both sides of the ball, every single play, sometimes 80, 90 plays a game, and every single one of them has a different assignment. You watch a baseball game, and those guys are great athletes too, but it's one pitch to one batter, and
the ball in baseball is going to go essentially to one other person, and they may throw it to one other person. So you're talking about that ball only touches hands
one at a time.
Usually, well, definitely one at a time, but maybe 3 people for play. You're maxing out probably at 5 or 6 people per play, and that's if you were to pull like, you'd have multiple runners. Like it's all circumstantial at that point. But in football, it's 22 guys facing off every single play, like you talked about, for 90 downs. Like
that's a great point. I've never played football in a formal setting. Played t-ball and stuff as a kid with baseball. But yeah, you're right. I mean, there were times where you're just standing out in the field, kind of like.
Yeah, I mean, if you're in right field,
that was a cool play. Yeah, all right, cool. I mean, you're ready. You're supposed to be ready at all times, but it's pretty hard to stay engaged when it ain't coming at you for a lot of the time. Whereas in football, to your point, yeah, you're always engaged. You always have a purpose to be on that field.
Yeah, I think this is a little specific for baseball. A lot of people joke about outfielders kind of just standing around doing nothing. And that's true. But if you're at first base, all you do is catch it. You hardly ever even throw it. Your job at first base is to catch the ball.
Right.
That's it. And if you're not good at hitting it, they're putting you at the bottom of the order. And literally the only task you have is to catch it.
God,
there's no yeah.
I've never thought about that.
Yeah,
I knew I didn't like the game really, but I never knew why. That makes sense.
There's not a position, in my opinion, that's kind of like that in football. Like everyone has an assignment, and with how creative offenses are getting nowadays, you have to account for every player on the field all the time. So a blown assignment, especially high level teams, that's where that's a mistake can be game changing. One singular mistake on one play can change the whole outflow of the game. So
well, and that speaks that speaks to the skill level and the analytical level of the quarterback.
Yeah.
When you're analyzing your players plus defense, like you're having to watch a lot of things at once and make a snap decision based on all of those factors.
So Clayton, I know you said you weren't, none of us here are physically gifted enough to play
Nope.
really at a competitive level. But were you in high school? Were you like big on attending high school games and?
So I wouldn't say by choice. I would caveat that with if I had a choice, I probably still would have went. I was a marching band in high school, so we were at all of them, supporting the team. Yeah, so it was always fun to explain the game to everybody in the band who had no idea what the hell was going on. That was always fun. But yeah, so we were always there for the team, or rather, there with the team. So
yeah, I'd grown up watching football, but I would say it was those band years where my love for the game really came about. Like again, every Friday night in the fall for 4 years, I was at these games, and if you're going to be there, you might as well enjoy it. So, really learning the ins and outs. And at our high school, we were terrible.
Yeah, for the most part.
But I was there when Graham Gano was there.
So those are good times.
We weren't good, but watching Graham kick 60-yarders was a good.
It was
time.
pretty cool. Yeah, it was cool to be at Tate Aggie, at least for that part.
Yeah. So that's really where I learned kind of the mechanics of the game and really learned an appreciation for it. So right there with you.
Sidestep really quick. Sorry, Clayton. Were you there? I mean, you were playing in the band, right? So you were there when he broke his record.
Yeah. When he hit like
set the record, I guess
63 yards or something insane.
Yeah.
I remember it very vividly. Actually,
I was there. It was cool.
I don't know if you felt this way, but it felt like it lasted forever.
Oh yeah.
Like and it just he kicked it, and then the whole everything was dead quiet,
right?
And it felt like 3 or 4 seconds, and it probably wasn't that long,
no.
But it was just like,
yeah,
and everyone went nuts. Like it was pretty crazy. I think he's the only professional football player we went to school with.
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
Still plays for the New York Giants.
If we went to school with anybody else, they haven't made an impact.
Maybe in baseball, but I doubt it. But
yeah.
How about you? Did you anyone you go to high school with ended up making it to the NFL?
Not that I went to high school with. There's 2 or 3 alumni from my school, but not while I was there. And we were admittedly about the same. We weren't great while I was there by any stretch of the imagination. So my school's calling card was baseball for sure. They were really good at baseball.
Yeah, same for us. We were a big baseball school. I obviously went to school with Graham.
Jeff Butler in baseball.
Yeah.
Sorry.
After we graduated, your senior year, actually, after I graduated, I went to Foley to watch Julio Jones play. He played against Pine Forest, and I want to say Alfred Morris, who was in the NFL as a running back, was on that Pine Forest team. So there were two guys. But Julio, man, was like a man among boys that game. I mean,
yeah,
he played about 11 plays total, had over 100 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Wow.
They literally would just bring him in for one, bomb it down the field. Julio would catch it, score a touchdown. He'd walk off of the sideline. And that's all he had to do. It was... And Pine Forest was top 4 team in the state of Florida that year. And Foley spanked us because of that kid. Mm-hmm. I'm rocking a Julio jersey right now.
Cool. Yeah, I wouldn't have done that.
Yep. Well, that's cool, man.
Sorry, we got off on a tangent there of our own. Yeah, you may have mentioned some of this already, but do you really remember the moment that you realized that you were a big fan of football? Yeah. Not just, it's another sport, but really became a fan.
Yeah, so it's tough to separate the officiating side of my life and the football fandom side of my life, but I think the time I realized I was, this game is really damn cool. I'm gonna like this a lot. I was also pretty young. Also 1999. I went to a Dolphins Jaguars playoff game with my dad, and I was decked out in Miami Dolphins gear because I don't know why. I was trying to be different. We were going to the Jaguars stadium. I was like, screw these guys. No one likes them. As a young kid, face was painted, jersey on, go Dan Marino, whole 9 yards. And Dolphins scored the first touchdown. and then the Jaguars scored
Mhm.
62 unanswered. And even though my team got their butt kicked, it was still a really, really cool experience. There were 75,000 people in Alltel Stadium at the time going nuts for this local hometown team.
Mhm.
Didn't care that there was a little 6-year-old next to him that was miserable. Just pure jubilation. I was like, well, that's what this game brings people together. So yeah, that's one of the first memories that I have. Like, football is awesome.
Mhm.
Like, this is going to be something that's in my life for a long time.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I mean, even though he lost, pretty dope to see Dan Marino play live in person. That's something you get to tell your kids about.
Yeah, and
Like that's
at the time, I didn't
super
know this
cool.
again because young kid, but it was his last game, so it's pretty cool to say that I was there for his last game, even though I may not have known what was going on too much. Well, just won't tell that part of the story,
Right.
Yeah, I have you ever been to a professional football game?
I've not been to a professional game. I've been to college games.
Wait, what college games you been to?
Oh, I guess a single game. I've been to an FSU game, and I can't remember. I'm pretty sure they lost. Of course, it was after their championship wins. They were not that great anymore. So I think it was against.
Like early 2000s ish.
No. It was after the
Last
most recent championship win.
That was January of 2014 is when they won.
Yeah, so it would have been probably 2015, and I'm pretty sure it was NC State, and they lost, which was shocking back then.
I went to the last Florida State game I went to. They played Boston College, and I think they lost. I think Boston College won.
Yeah, I mean, right now, pretty much anytime you say I went to an FSU game, I think they lost is the right answer.
Friggin' terrible.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to a Michigan game?
I have actually. I went to Ohio State, Michigan in 2011, the last time Michigan won.
Wow, that is a good game to be at.
Yeah, it was my buddy and I, we saved up some money. It was our senior year of high school. We're like, hey, we're going to go to a Michigan game. Screw it. So we drove, however many 100 miles it is. I think it's like 12 or 1,300, 14 hours in a car. It was great.
That's cool, man. That's really cool. And if you're going to go to any game, might as well be the Ohio State game. Yeah, that's pretty dope. To your Dan Marino, story, I have a not similar. It wasn't a playoff game and it wasn't anyone's last game. But when I was a kid growing up in Atlanta used to be in the NFC West, which makes no sense. But they were. So they played the 49ers every year. And this was before there was an NFC South. But they played the 49ers every year. So I went to a Falcons 49ers game like 97-ish, maybe between 97 and 99, somewhere in that range. I was 8 to 10 years old. I don't really remember specifically. But I did watch Steve Young throw a giant bomb to Jerry Rice for a touchdown, which was like the first score of a total blowout by the 49ers to the Falcons, which at the time
was pretty common, right?
9-year-old me was pissed. I was so mad. But now I'm like, I got to watch Steve Young throw a touchdown pass to Jerry Rice. That was cool.
I was going to say that's also a great story for the grandkids or whoever.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing. I mean, just hearing you guys talk about your football stories, I have none even close to that. But yeah, it's kind of crazy that you guys have seen some legendary, legendary players, B, legendary plays, and at the time you didn't know.
Yeah.
It was just cool. It was really good. But looking back, it's like you guys have stories of these amazing moments in football history that you can tell great stories about. Which, I don't know, it's pretty cool. It's weird that you go to a game, you're not thinking, oh, there's going to be some legendary plays today.
Yeah.
You're just, oh, there's going to be some really good football today.
You just want to win that game.
You just want to win, and then looking back, you realize some pretty cool moments that you've experienced. And I'm sure it's like that for many fans and many attendees. You don't go knowing you're going to see something legendary. Now, on the other side of things, other forms of entertainment, I feel like that's pretty standard. You go to people that went to a Beatles concert, toward the end of their time knew what they were going to. People that went to a Michael Jackson concert knew what they were going to see, and it was going to be the greatest thing in history. But you go to a football game, it's just going to be another great. You hope it's another great win.
Well, the other part to that too, you're right, absolutely. But at some point that will end.
Right.
You know that these Beatles aren't going to stay together forever.
Right. You don't know how long it's going to take.
You don't know how long. The Rolling Stones have been together 50 years.
Right.
But at some point there will be no more Rolling Stones.
Right. There will always be the Falcons.
Yeah.
There will always be Jaguars.
Yeah.
The now, Patriots. Different players though.
Yeah.
But even then, I mean, what's I'm going to butcher it. The guy that everybody doesn't like it, Peyton Manning, right?
I think everyone likes Peyton Manning. People hate Tom Brady.
But both of those guys seem to just never quit.
They played well into the 40s. Tom Brady just won a Super Bowl at 43.
Right. So probably for many years we've been thinking, oh, this is going to be the last one.
Yeah.
And then here they go again, continuing to be awesome players. So
I did, Tom Brady's an interesting one because I did not want the Buccaneers to win all year.
Mm-hmm.
And then, the NFC Championship week, I'm just like, I want them to win.
Mm-hmm.
Just do it. Just win this time, get to the Super Bowl, beat the Chiefs or whoever you're going to play.
Mm-hmm.
This was,
right.
2 weeks before, and just do it.
Mm-hmm.
And because now we're in unprecedented territory.
Right. Now it is a spectacle by itself. It's something to see.
And that's I think that's a big draw of sports, especially sports live, because you never know what you're going to witness.
Again, to my other point, you go to a concert, they're going to play a certain set of songs depending on their most recent album or their most legendary hits.
Yep.
You go to a football game, you don't know what plays are going to happen. You don't know how they're going to play out. You just hope it's going to be a good game.
Yeah. Clayton, I did want to ask you, you briefly kind of mentioned this, how has your love of the game affected your, transition to officiating? Was it part of the reason you did it? I mean, you talked about, needing a job, but was it like, well, I really love this thing. This is something I can do. And how has it affected, your enjoyment of officiating game?
Sure. So at first I didn't really think I could do it. Honestly, I watched my dad do it for years. I was on the sideline with him, just essentially just hanging out, watching him get verbally berated by these random strangers. I'm like, man, this sucks. Who wants to do this? And as I got a little older, I realized, how much he enjoyed it, and he was explaining the reasons he enjoyed it. Because he also loved football as a kid. He played a little, not legitimately professionally or anything, but he was a little bigger guy. So yeah, just watching the joy and the excitement in his eyes when he would talk to his friends about a game he just did, or especially playoff games, state championship games, which he's done, college games, the really cool stuff, watching him share those memories. I was like, maybe I do want to think about doing this, maybe it is cool. Maybe I don't really care what these people say to him or to me while I'm on the field. Because when you're 8 and 9 years old, people saying that stuff to your dad, you're like, man, don't talk to him like that. I'll beat you up, But then you realize that they're just nuts. Like that, they're fans. That's what they do, So yeah, that's kind of where it all started. Just realizing how much fun and how much other people around me enjoyed it. And I was like, oh, maybe I'll give it a shot. And it turns out I loved it from day one, and here we are.
I was going to say, how is it, affected your enjoyment of the game, being a little more thorough and technical, like you talked about the under the water part of the iceberg, as it, sometimes people do things that they love and it kind of taints it a little bit. Have you experienced that, or has it only improved your love of the game?
So I would actually say that it has tainted it a little bit. Actually, I can't watch football the same way. It's not as enjoyable, because even if it's, one of my favorite teams, something happens, I'll be like, I know exactly why he did that. He's 100% correct. We absolutely held there, and everybody else is pissed off at the world, as a fan should be. And I'm like, no, they're right.
Terrible
they're
play.
Right. So it's honestly made watching football kind of boring, honestly. realistically.
Yeah, I mean, but I think that's the case for anything we become experts in or become proficient in. The more you know, the more critical you are, or the more accepting you are, and so you kind of don't have as much fun with it.
Yeah, for sure. I know I've been that way about music a lot
Yeah.
in my life. When I literally was making enough money to only play music,
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to stop playing music.
Right.
And that's kind of every musician's dream, like to just be able to, if I could just live off this.
Yeah.
But when I got to that point, I was like, man, I hate this. I do not want to do this anymore.
Yeah. Well, and it's hard for me to go out and enjoy a meal out somewhere because is it terrible service? No.
But you're just critical.
Is it expert service? No. And so I'm constantly analyzing and paying attention to everything that's happening instead of just sitting there enjoying the company and the meal if it's good.
And weirdly enough, I'm the same way about church too.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh.
When you're involved in a ministry role, it's really hard to go back and just
take a seat.
Yeah, visit a church. But
well, so Clayton, all this talk about football and officiating and even what we're saying now, still having that joy for the game versus being critical with it. What's your favorite thing about football?
Nothing to do with the players on the field at all. Has everything to do with the atmosphere that a football game brings to a community.
Okay.
Absolutely. There's no better thing than coming into a small town in the South or wherever it may be. It's typically, quiet, maybe some people walking around getting some brunch on a Saturday, and suddenly that population doubles and there's 300,000 people in your city. And it's elbow to elbow, and no one cares about anything else other than having a good time.
Yeah, there is certainly like a magic. Like there's just something in the air, an excitement. And as a fan of both college and NFL, though, I probably lean more to the NFL side, but it's just really hard to even put words on. Like everyone like you're talking about, you could double or triple in size to this small college town on a game day, and everyone is there for the exact same reason. And if in that town, the majority of them all want the same thing,
right?
It's just electric.
Yeah, no, there's an energy, not even just in the stadium, but in the parking lot, on the sidewalk, walking 2 miles from the little parking area that you had to make, in the restaurants before and after the game, that you really can't find many other places. And I can agree with that. I mean, the one game I've been to, the FSU game, even though we pretty much knew we were going to lose, the energy in that area was so different. And a friend that went to FSU talked about that, about how, to your same point, Clayton, that the amount of people that come and just sort of change the atmosphere for game day is very noticeable. People make tons of money on the side of the street selling memorabilia or water bottles or whatever, that turns that city over for that one day, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, you talk about the walk up. That's one of my favorite parts. Like, especially at Florida State, you're walking up to Doak Campbell, and you go through like Sorority Row to get there, and it's a lot of fun. I haven't been the last couple of years. Hashtag thanks children, but I used to go to the Senior Bowl, and the Senior Bowl is the same thing. You got to park like 3 miles away and walk to the stadium. And again, it's kids all over the country and stuff like that. But these are kids that most of them hopefully will be in the NFL here in a few months. And they're coached by NFL coaching staffs. And so it's a different kind of feel, but or a different kind of energy, but a similar feel. Like it's that walk, everyone's excited to be there.
Yeah.
That's
well, and even and Clayton, you can probably speak more to this than I can, but even on the high school level, I
Mhm.
mean, if you're in a town, and especially in the southeast, where um, it's all about football, right? Having graduated from Tate, going back to even like a homecoming game or something like that, uh, the energy on campus, walking up to the stadium, I've called it stadium, to the bleachers, is it's an energy that you don't get, and an excitement and an feeling of community that you don't get anywhere else.
Yeah. Pete Gendel Stadium.
Do what?
Pete Gendel Stadium.
That's the name of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would never have known
Get
that.
out of here. Get out of here. Don't ever
I
call yourself an Aggie ever again.
No, I didn't care about high school, and definitely didn't care about high school sports. But
Yeah, you're lame. Clayton, what was it like getting to officiate a state championship game? Speaking of high school.
So it was super cool. I know that probably undersells it a bit, but there's not really any other words to put it in perspective. We got lucky enough; it was actually in Doak Campbell Stadium because of COVID. They moved all the championship games from typically Orlando to Doak. It was really cold, so that was not fun. Um, American Heritage was one of the teams, so there was Patrick Surtain, the old Miami Dolphins cornerback, and the father of Patrick Surtain II, the Alabama cornerback, who should be going top 10 in the draft. He was the head coach. So I was star stunned, I guess. Beautiful venue under the lights, the pinnacle, one of the first goals I set for myself. I don't know, it was breathtaking. It really was.
what was that moment like when you found out you got selected?
If I was capable of doing a backflip, I just would have done one. I was jubilated, so relieved.
Yeah.
I say relieved. It was a big monkey off my back. In my opinion, I probably should have had one prior to last year, but that's the way it works. That's part of it. And I finally made it, and it was. I hate to say one of the best days of my life, but it was. It was one of the best days of my life. It was a goal you set for yourself, and 15 years of your life trying to accomplish it. So
when you reach kind of the pinnacle of, especially something that you're passionate about, and it's hard because so many of the things, especially things we talk about on this podcast, being a fan of something, there's not a competitive side to it. And even though you're officiating, you're essentially vying or competing for that spot to have the honor to officiate that state championship game. And
100%.
I have had the fortunate opportunity to compete at the international level as a musician, and you're sitting, you're on the floor, and there's 20 or 30,000 people looking down at you, there solely to watch you perform. And it's just, I don't know, it's hard to put into words. Like it just really, there's an electricity, and I don't know if there was people in attendance at the game, but I'm sure standing on the field of a while struggling football program, essentially a legacy program, and there just has to be, you're never going to forget those moments.
Yeah, not at all. Legacy program for sure. We were lucky enough to have. It was actually the opponent was Rickards High School, which is in Tallahassee. So there was actually a pretty sizable crowd there because they were local,
right?
Even with COVID. So it was not as loud or as full as it could have been, but we were blessed to have a little crowd. And like you said, it was electric. I was looking around the whole time, be like, what am I doing here? Oh yeah, I have to watch this game and do my job. But I wanted to look around the whole time and just take it all in.
What keeps you coming back to football time and time again?
Are we talking officiating or just enjoying it?
Both?
Either.
Yeah.
Okay. So officiating, I'm gonna be really honest with you. I know I'm young, but I'm 14 years in. It's really hard to come back every year. The time that I take away from home, for my wife, my dogs. If we travel for a college game, we leave on Thursday night. We don't get back till Sunday evening sometimes. And 12 weeks repetitively out of the year, that gets kind of old. And until you make it until you make it big, I'll just say it's not worth your time, if that makes sense, from a monetary standpoint.
Right.
So the only thing that keeps me back, I'll be honest, is pure love of doing it and chasing goals that I have not yet accomplished. That's it. Those are the only two things.
It's a good answer.
That Super Bowl game, right? That ultimate game.
I did have a question. I'm not entirely curious how this works, but I know there is like an efficient school in Atlanta. Did you have to go to that, or was there like another program, or it's just like over grinding away through the years type of thing?
Yeah, so just grinding away. There's multiple ways to climb the ranks, of course. That's one of them. Yeah, I started and most people do, to start at youth football, learn how to do what you're supposed to be doing, hone it, care about it, get better at it, realize there are correct ways to do things, and just like you said, grind year after year after year, go to clinics, get recognized by the right people, know the right people. Unfortunately, politics is a part of it. But yeah, that's how I managed to get where I am today. But there are multiple paths that are possible.
So what about on the just strictly fan side of it? What keeps you coming back?
Friends, 100% friends. As you know, Reagan, we've grown up. We're adults. You don't have time to just hang out and care about nothing anymore. Kind of that sense of community. That's football for me. It's me and my buddies and their wives and my wife going and just watching a game and not worrying about anything. Just having one common goal for the day. Something simple. We win. Great. We're going to enjoy each other's company regardless. And then if we lose, we're going to be able to enjoy each other's company again next week.
Well, we always end on two questions. They're the same two questions every week. The first is, if you had any critique for, I don't know, football or football fandom, maybe you'd think Bills fans should stop busting tables or something. What's some negative side effects or critique you have to offer?
So my biggest critique is just going to be to relax. Like it's not that serious as a fan. It's not. Like I was just talking about, it's friends and getting together and enjoying yourself. You have no control over whether Julio Jones catches or drops that ball. You have no control over the play call that Jim Harbaugh calls, or John Harbaugh, or Sean Payton, or no control over any of it. Just soak it in, enjoy being in the same facility as world-class athletes and your friends and family, and again, relax. Just relax. It's not worth getting your blood pressure up over.
Yeah, or burning all your memorabilia over.
Yes, for sure.
Right.
I honestly, I quit. I don't do fantasy football for that reason, because I get way too into it.
I do it every year.
I did it 3 years in a row, and it burned me out. Honestly, I actually don't think I've watched a football game on purpose, other than UWF games, in probably 3 or 4 years. And I used to watch every single FSU game I could get. Of course, it was convenient working in a restaurant where they had all the major games on. Yeah. But I mean, I was watching more than I was working back then, and because of that, it's like you said, it's not that serious. It's fun, it's enjoyable. I would rather be in person than watch it on TV at this point. But yeah, just like to your point, relax. There's nothing more annoying than being around fans that it's literally life or death, and take it so seriously and have never played other than in their street or in their backyard a day in their life.
Yeah, I am pretty good about this. I have my moments. My brother, much worse. So first brief story. I grew up in Atlanta. I remember in 1998 when the Falcons went to the Super Bowl. They beat the Vikings in the NFC Championship in the last second field goal. I mean, the whole city went nuts.
Yeah.
He was a year old. That was the last time they were really relevant. 04, they had Michael Vick. They went to the NFC Championship. Again, city just electric. Michael Vick was a superstar. And then, obviously, he gets arrested. And, well, Matt Ryan comes in, and it's been successful. It took a long time to get back to that same level of success we had experienced in 98 and 04. And so I had that.
Right.
He never did. And here he is just waiting. So he's 20 years old in 2016 when they go to the Super Bowl and blow the biggest lead in Super Bowl history. And I don't think has ever really recovered.
Is he going to listen to this?
No, he won't.
Okay.
He's very much an angry sports fan.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, that night, I literally turned my TV off.
Sure.
My wife was still up doing things. I turned all the lights off on it, and I just went to bed and did not say a word. Like, I was furious.
Yeah. Well, sure.
But, just enjoy being there.
Yeah.
I go to an NFL game every year, minus 2020, thanks COVID, with a group of friends. And, it's just, we go to different stadiums and see different teams. And it's just about enjoying that game together.
Right.
Kind of exactly what you're talking about.
And my critique on that, too, would be that there's two exceptions I make to my frustration with football fans. And I really inherited this from my wife. If you attended the school or if you live in the state or city, attended the school for college, live in the state or city for professional football.
You're counting Clayton out right now. He's a Michigan fan. He didn't
feel
go.
free to disagree. I want to hear it. But I'm just saying, in that regard, it's acceptable because it's school spirit or it's, state spirit or whatever you want to call it. I honestly don't think it's as bad for professional football. You can follow a player that came from a school that you went to.
For the Buccaneers.
I followed Graham Gano's career because I went to high school with him. So I support him. I support whatever team he's on. And he was always on my fantasy football team, always did great for me. But when you get that guy that's rooting or gets so upset about a kid 20 years younger that he's never met, playing for a school that he's never attended in a game that he's never played, that to me is ridiculous.
Regan, we're not supposed to talk about negatively about fans of things.
That's the part of what we're doing. That's the piece right here. I'm just going to leave it there. I love it. And I support it, the community and all that stuff. But that would be my critique alongside what you're saying. Just relax.
I think Reagan is spot on. I don't think there's any hole in his argument at all. 100%. For reference, again, Jags and Lions fan, I think I like the Lions more, but I get a little more heated about Jaguar stuff because I live here. Like every day I'm going to talk to somebody about it, and to the not having control over something point again, you don't have control over an NFL game. Of course you have definitely no control over, again, like Reagan said, this 19, 20-year-old kid who just happened to go to the same or some random school near you. Like, stop, relax.
Right.
You're getting mad at a literal child.
Especially when people say we lost. No, you didn't lose. They lost. The team you support lost, but we didn't do anything.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm big on saying we.
Yeah.
Again, I'm more of a pro guy than a college guy. Again, grew up in Atlanta. Georgia Tech was okay in the late 90s, but I think they did think they won a national championship once. Maybe whatever. But anyway, again, when you're in that city and you feel that energy, like again, in 98, when the Falcons went to the Super Bowl, it felt like we were all going to the Super Bowl.
For sure. No, and you're right on that. I mean, again,
there's a camaraderie there that you see. I agree with you. You don't have ownership about the win or the loss.
Right.
But when I say we lost, I mean like all of us who, are there, we support, we're in and out. Like we carry those emotions just like the players do. And I get that that's maybe not entirely fair, but if we get to enjoy the success together, we should also be able to enjoy the failure together.
Right. No, you're right. And that's true. I mean, when you think about it as bringing communities together, that's a great point, especially with high school sports.
Yeah.
I get super excited when I go to a Tate high school game and they actually win because I went there. There's a little bit of school spirit, school pride. And the rest of my community does the same thing. There's like we said earlier, there's an electrifying energy there that really you don't find in anything else. So yes, when it's part of your city or school you go to, I'm 100% on board with it. I think it's great. It's the guy that,
The problem is Alabama fans have ruined it for you.
Mostly.
Yeah.
And Florida Gators a lot of the time.
I can't stand the games.
But that's because I'm an FSU fan. But even some FSU fans, I'm just like, dude, chill. Like, you've never played a day in your life.
I have thought a lot about going to get my master's at Florida State just so that I can justify it.
Yep, I've got to get my bachelor's first, but I did look into it because my wife was criticizing me so hard on that a few years ago, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to go to school for some part of it
Just
so
I
can justify being so excited about this game.
That's hilarious.
Still haven't done it, but maybe one day.
So Clayton, the final question we ask is, what does the future hold? What do you think football looks like in the next 5 to 10 years?
So I'll go both routes again. 5 to 10 years, man, I would love to be in Division I somewhere officiating football. That's my pinnacle. If I don't ever make the NFL, I'll live. Those guys are elite of the elite. College football is where I want to be, for sure. The pageantry, the band, the traditions from the fans, the stadiums, the venues, it's all it's my childhood. So that's my goal. As far as football as a whole is going to look really, really different in 10 years. It might not exist in 50, honestly. The NFL may not exist. This lawsuits from players are just going to start piling up over the years, and it's going to be very, very interesting to watch what happens with the NFL. They should have cared about safety more so for their players. They should have cared about safety more so for their players 30 years ago, and maybe they might have a shot. But now it's, man, I don't know. I hope it's still around, but I have no idea. The rules are going to be totally different. We may be watching flag football in 30 years.
Which I'm really good at, by the way. So I'm all for that. Flag football is a challenge of its own. To get somebody without touching them is...
You're very skinny, so
yeah,
you're wiry.
Oh, I did really great in high school playing flag football at PE. I was really good at it.
Yeah, I think you're dead on there. I don't think people realize the reckoning that's probably coming. Even that's already kind of started. But CTE, very real, and very much ruins the lives of the men who make the product. And so even though the NFL just signed a big new TV contract for 10 years with tens of billions of dollars, and like if you look at the most watched programs at the end of the year, like 9 out of the 10 are always NFL games. Like it is the most watched thing on TV. So it's hard to be like, oh, it's going to go away because it's fading out. It's going to go away because the people who make it probably at one point are going to say, you know what, it's not worth it.
Or maybe it changes to the degree that the people watching it no longer want to watch it.
There could be. Things like the kickoff probably are going to go away within like the next 2 to 3 years. We're probably not going to have kickoffs anymore. And, are we going to have field goals? And these minor rule changes are going to eventually create an entirely different game.
Yeah, it already is a different game than it was even 20 years ago.
Yeah. It's interesting. I hope it doesn't, because I love it, but also at the same time, because I love it, I hate seeing these guys ruin their lives.
Yeah. For millions of dollars.
Yeah.
I'm going to make a comment on what I hope to see in the future for Clayton's officiating and the game as a whole. Game as a whole, you know what? I don't watch as much as I used to, but I would like to see Florida State win the national championship just one more time in my lifetime. And then Clayton, I think the true pinnacle would be officiating the Super Bowl where the Jets are in the Super Bowl. But that's just a personal thing. I will be at that game if that ever happens. I will spend whatever amount of money it takes to get there. There's a story there, obviously.
And the whole damn family better be there. If it's
the whole family. Yep. The whole kit and caboodle. So, okay, let's tell that story real quick. Just if you can tell it.
Sure. So it's really funny. I'll give you the abridged version.
Yes.
The details aren't really that
They're
important.
not.
We're on a cruise as a family. There's like 40 of us. We're sitting out by the pool one day next to my wife's uncle and his husband, excuse me, his wife and Haley and her parents and me and
me and
another uncle walks up. Yeah, exactly. Another uncle walks up towards the end of the conversation, and we're all talking about officiating. And at that time, I'd just gotten into college, and it was a big deal. It was 4 or 5 years ago, Reagan.
Yeah, I guess so.
Something like that. And he walks up, and then the conversation immediately changes somehow to Jets football. I forget. Maybe
somebody was wearing
on or something.
See, I think he had a hat, and you said something to him.
Yeah, and somebody mentioned, and then somebody, still a part of the other conversation, said that, oh yeah, maybe Clayton, you'll get to the Super Bowl one day. And the Jets fan, the uncle, thought that person said maybe the Jets will make it to the Super Bowl one day.
And he goes,
I didn't
not
hear
in my
that.
lifetime, buddy.
And so I thought that he was talking about me making it to the Super Bowl. I was like, wow, that's a really rude thing to say, bro. Thanks. Yeah. So Haley and I,
he's like, what?
We walk away, and I'm telling Haley, I was like, well,
offended.
That was kind of lame, but okay, whatever. I'm not mad or anything. It is what it is. And then he comes running up to us because I guess somebody in the group told him that what he just
we were all pretty stunned, and so we explained it to him.
And he's like, I'm so sorry, blah, blah, blah. I didn't mean for you to take it like that. I was talking about the Jets because we're terrible. I hope you go as far as you want to go. I was like, man, thanks for the apology. That clears up a lot. But you're right. The Jets do suck. So now every time
not in my lifetime.
Jets, we see each other. Not in my lifetime as the family goes to.
So. On the refereeing the Super Bowl, Sarah Thomas, the first woman who officiated the Super Bowl this year, graduate of the University of Mobile, my alumni.
I didn't know that.
Yep, 1995. She played basketball there.
Okay, cool.
Yep, she's actually giving the, what is the speech you can give at graduation? I don't remember what it's called. There's a word for it.
Yeah,
whatever. She's doing that this year. But yeah, cool. Go Rams.
The baccalaureate? Is that
no, it's where the guest comes and gives.
Yeah,
the president usually does it, or a celebrity.
There's a word for it. There's like a thing that's, it's an address of some sort. But, well, Clayton, we appreciate you hanging out with us, talking old foosball. We made it through this whole conversation without a Waterboy reference.
We did.
Pretty impressive. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Do you have anything?
SCLSU Mud Dogs.
There you go. Do you have anything you want to plug? Like, I don't know, Instagram or whatever you're officiating?
No, I would rather people not know where I am.
That's fair point. Totally fine. Totally get that.
Sure. Actually, I'll be selfish. I'll plug. My wife's a great photographer, so if you guys need family portraits done, let us know, and she can handle it.
That's the exact opposite of selfish,
Haley
man.
Wright photography.
She's gonna get a double plug, man.
Yeah, because she'll be on in a few weeks.
Yep.
All right, buddy. Well, we appreciate it. Thanks for hanging out.
Thanks, Clayton.
Thank you for listening to Fantastic People. Please rate and subscribe wherever you find your podcast, and follow us on social media. That's at Fantastic People Pod on Facebook, at Fantastic_People Pod on Instagram, and at Fantastic People, no E, on Twitter. We'd like to say thank you to Alex Edmondson for our artwork. We hope to see you guys next time. Thanks for listening.